Hello, welcome back to the second episode on migration with Professor Mojuba Olufunke Okome of Brooklyn College in New York.
You know, the hypocrisy of this whole migration regime is that actually Europe and the US, they need labor. They could not do without migrant and immigrant workers. If immigrants stop working for 1 week, the economy of the United States of America and the economy of Europe will crash. It is about time that we had a rethinking of how to reorganize our world. But nobody is going to hand that to us in the global south, and we cannot get it as individual countries. One thing that we need to do is to become more united. And when I say, or maybe form coalitions, because we also have to realize that we do not have identical interests. So we need to form coalitions, and those coalitions have to be with the objective of reviving the spirit of Pan-Africanism. But as we are saying that, we have to also realize that the people of the old diaspora are themselves overexploited and they've been brutalized here. So what is Africa offering them? So what is Africa offering to the diaspora that we're going to say should make them interested in Africa? A lot of times, Africa is saying, come and make your investment. Come and contribute to Africa. We are Mother Africa, but what are we doing? When somebody, this is the first time with the killing of Mr. Floyd, is the first time that I'm seeing that there's response, considerable response from the African continent. So we need to be doing this more often. To realize that these are our people, to realize that there has to be mutual love, mutual care, mutual assistance. African Americans, Canadian Americans, Caribbean American people, they have a lot of issues that are similar to the issues we have in the African continent. So how are we going to collectively work together to say, we'll help you with yours, you help us with ours? I think that has to happen. Secondly, how are we going to also, by the way, the AU actually said that the African diaspora is the 6th continent, right? I love that. But how is it going to be practicalized? So, people who care about these issues, we need to get involved with the AU process to make sure that it is working as intended. And I dare say the AU is captured. It's captured by Europe. It's captured by the Chinese, okay? So we, the African people, need to show more interest in the institutions that we have to make sure that they live up to the spirit and the letter of their constitutive documents, their own laws about how they should function. We also need to make sure that we begin to tell our stories in more positive ways. Africans are some of the most negative people when it comes to assessments of who we are and what we are capable of. So we need to change the rhetoric and inspire our people to understand that we too have contributed and we are contributing to the pool of knowledge in the world. We can harness the resources, intellectual, human resources, and recover from all the harm that has been done to us. So how are we going to get control of our resources? Look, we are not going to get those resources if there's no war, because the people who have it will not give it up. And international law benefits them and says, the arrangements that are in place are the arrangements that we should respect. So we have to fight multi-pronged wars.
Challenge those
When
laws.
I say war, I mean struggle. Okay?
Yes.
So some of it is changing the architecture of world governance.
Yes.
So ordinary people, many of us don't even know what goes on in the United Nations. We don't know what goes on in the African Union. We don't know what even goes on in our own governments. We need to take an interest and develop, you know, so what area is one's own area of interest? Is it education? Focus on that. Is it about women's autonomy? Focus on that. Is it about economic development? Focus on that. You know, so think, you know, if we want to do this in a democratic way, democracy is not a spectator sport. You have to get involved. And it's a long-term struggle because power is never conceded.
Never.
You have to make a demand. That demand has to be made in a smart way that says we know what the laws are and you have to respect the laws. And then there has to be mobilization.
But that is where the laws themselves are good. If we need to question those laws, if we need to insist on changing those laws, we should.
Yes. If laws are unjust, you have to do you have to educate the ordinary people who are, after all, the majority, to see what is at stake and why it is in their interest to struggle to change these conditions. You know, so there are going to be people who are lawyers and activists. Ordinary people have to be involved also. And one of the tragedies in Africa is that people who are intellectual are very, they're kind of floating above society. They're not connected organically. They talk big grammar. Ordinary people don't understand what they're saying and why it's important. So we need to make our ideas about where we need to go digestible. It's like going through another independence movement to say, these are the things that are wrong. This is what we want to do about it. And we harness these resources, human, intellectual, and, you know, skills to bring this change about. But, you know, make no mistake, it's going to be a long-term struggle. So it's not going to happen overnight. I'm just hoping it will happen in my lifetime.
Thank you so very much
my pleasure.
For the insights you brought to this topic.
For women, yes, we have to know that gender makes a difference in all areas of human activity. And the way that society responds to women is different from how it responds to men. The whole essence of gender is to say that when a society allocates power, it does so differentially to males and females. Most human societies tend to privilege males and disadvantage women. And there's also this pro-male bias, you know, that establishes and reinforces patriarchy, that assumes that it's a construction, of course, it's not real, that men are smarter, that men are more decisive, that men are better leaders, that men are more organized, and so power should naturally devolve to men. Then, you know, the whole essence of this warped way of looking at the world is to say women are none of the above. So they need not be allowed to exercise power. As a matter of fact, they are weak. So men should take care of them. Now, the taking care of the women depends on what the men want to do, okay? So in taking care of the woman can be exploited. She can be brutalized. She can be casually, you know, dismissed out of the room anytime any important decision is being taken including decisions that involve her own life. And, if she's married, the children that she has, So this way of organizing life is a construction. And if you really look at the nitty-gritty of human beings and their capacities, there's no justification for much of what this is. It's about a way of organizing so that you privilege a group, give them power, they are men. You disadvantage a group, deny them from power, that's the women. Now, when I look at gender, I also see it as more complex than this, but let's just stick with this. Now, women in migration. So let's remember structural adjustment as having put more stressors on our continent and our peoples than even ever before. So many families, if we think about an economy that is patriarchal, the men had the advantage in the hiring. Men in many places have the advantage in education. So they'll get the better jobs. Now, the rule in most economic enterprises is last hired, first fired. So if you're dismissing people and firing, I can't remember the British equivalent. If you're firing people, it's women who would tend to get fired. But let's also think about women as having responsibilities that are not given to men. Women have responsibilities for childcare, for elder care, for caring for sick people, for reproduction. So all these responsibilities put more burden on women than men. And even when there is a man who is helpful, who takes care of children and helps with housework, he's helping. It is not his responsibility. And society would want to put him on a pedestal and give him the Nobel Prize, But when a woman is doing all that, it's just her job. And it doesn't even, well, in some places, on Mother's Day, they will treat the woman nicely. That's it. So this puts an additional responsibility on women. And then when economic decisions are being made about jobs, moving in order to advance yourself up the professional ladder, women would take cognizance of their responsibilities to the family. Even single women. Women suffer these things. Many of them do it willingly.
Oh, yes.
But I think it's because we are socialized that this is a norm, that this is something that we should do. And if you are a woman who is, quote unquote, overly ambitious, society will traumatize you. You will be called nasty names. You will be otherized. Other women would even try to avoid you because they don't want you to bring your wahala into their zone, So I think that women, because of the way in which gender functions, they are made to normalize their own and embrace and love their own oppression, And many women, because of socialization, you take this on board, it's not even, it doesn't even percolate through your consciousness that you are doing something negative to yourself until people then take pepper and rub into your eyes. That's when you start realizing, after all, I'm a human being too. But most of the time, women do this without any recognition, without also even thinking that they're doing anything that's a big deal. Okay, so in migration, what we found is that actually, in many places, before structural adjustment, it used to be men who would migrate first, and then women would join them. When structural adjustment began, actually, some women were migrating first. And in the African continent, you have parity between men and women in terms of how the proportion that is migrating. So many women, so most of the time when we think about this, we think about the sex workers, right? let me also contextualize the sex work. My contextualization of it is that I see the women who do this work as making economic decisions.
Oh, yes.
And sometimes they're making this decision with the whole family involved.
Absolutely.
And not only that, these economic decisions are imposed on them by the political economy of the world. Look, in many places in this world, a PhD level work is not going to fetch you what a sex worker earns. So it tells you what we value as human beings. Okay? Men would pay more money for a high class, they even advertise, you know, they want somebody from the Ivy League with this kind of vital statistics to accompany them, to be on the arm candy, to go to a high level event so that it's their trophy woman, you know. People pay a lot for that.
Escort service.
Escort services, you know, and it's tailored to your needs and your pocket. Sex workers make more money than most women who are doing other hard work.
I know, yeah.
Then you want people to be starving and to stay in place and not take advantage of those economic opportunities. Now, of course, you know, this work also exposes women to a whole lot of danger.
Of course.
And a lot of exploitation.
Yeah.
And sometimes the people who do the exploitation are women too.
Yes.
But that doesn't reduce the extent to which this is a patriarchal arrangement, okay? So the fact that it's women who are doing the oppression, as people usually say, women are women's own worst enemies. They are serving the purposes of patriarchy. Because in order to survive and to succeed in a patriarchal arrangement, you have to fall in line and do what the patriarchy wants. That's what's going to get you approval. That's what's going to get you forward. That's what's going to make you money. You also have, you know, I talked about the nannies before. I don't know of too many male nannies.
Nannies who will leave their families to go and look after other people's children.
So these are also women who, in large part, leave their children to come and take care of other people's children. The conditions under which they work, because it's in the domestic sphere, depends too much on the magnanimity of the people that they work with. And a lot of times they are overly exploited because they have to work 24/7. And a lot of times they are not given, you know, any kind of leisure. If they break things, they have to pay for it. Now, if you look at Lebanon today, they have this system, that system
you see
they
the
have.
video of Nigerian women.
Yes.
Being,
So you can see it more clearly, but it is here in North America, it is there in Canada, it is there in Italy, and every other place, because you have women who are also moving into these professions or occupations, because they're not professions. Look at the people making nails, okay? Yeah. They're women. Yeah. And some of those nail salon workers, there's evidence that some of them are pressed into sex work. You know, so the massage parlors and things like that. Yes. So think also about nurses and doctors. When you think about these populations, you'll find that majority of nurses are women.
Yes.
Majority of doctors are men.
Yes.
Doctors are better paid and they have more prestige than nurses. Okay. So when we look at how society rewards women, migrant women are the ones who do most of this work, right? They are not rewarded well. They do not have much prestige. When they are undocumented, they are vulnerable to all kinds of exploitation. So that's what
Look at the number of Nigerian nurses who have died in the UK.
Yes. COVID is showing us,
yes.
COVID is showing us that, you know, the conditions under which our under which people in the same profession work are actually not identical.
They're not.
That non-white workers are subjected to more hazardous conditions than white workers.
Yes.
And this has to change.
Yes.
You know,
and people try to hide behind the fact that blacks are more susceptible to it. It's not true. Scientifically, they've not been able to prove why blacks are more vulnerable.
Blacks are more susceptible, then we'll see more deaths on the African continent.
Yes.
Where more black people are concentrated.
Yes.
You know, I think it's about the fact that what they say in the US is that your zip code determines your health outcomes. So most of the immigrant and black workers are working in hospitals that are in areas that are under-resourced, you know. So there's environmental racism in terms of where people live, the crowdedness, the level of public services that are available, and the fact that, you know, we tend to value wealthy people currently in the world, the 1%. We see them as deserving of the best conditions. And everybody else, it goes down until, you know, we rank people in order of importance in terms of how we use our resources, you know. And immigrants, black people, non-white people, they suffer as a consequence of the arrangements that we have become comfortable with in terms of how we value human life. If we don't change this, we're going to all be down up the creek, you know, because COVID is not actually a respecter of your color, you know. And if you get comfortable with the staff, even if you don't have it originally, your staff will bring it to you because they are living in circumstances that are less than ideal. So I think this is calling on us to change our ways. You know, in the process of migration also, women go through a lot of horrors. So when people are doing all those dangerous migrations, when they don't, the clandestine migrations, there's evidence that there's rape.
Yes.
That there's beatings.
Yes.
That there's torture.
Yes.
So, and this, you know, I know men can be beaten also, men can be raped. Let's be clear. But the percentage of people who are traumatized in this process,
it's women.
It's overwhelmingly women, you know. And so there is a need, women and girls, there's a need to pay attention to issues of gender. There's a need also to struggle for equality, for equity, for also restitution.
Yes.
So that when women are injured by all these processes that and institutions we have in place, that there are remedies, you know. The world, when I look at it, is heartbreaking because the world is so unsafe for many young girls and women. And a lot of times, people will tell you, let's say a woman is even raped. People are going to be asking you, why was she there? What was she doing? How did she walk? How was she dressed?
Yes.
You know, I had to leave a WhatsApp group yesterday because a woman was saying that sometimes women incite men to rape. You know, and this is because of how we learn. You know, socialization is important. So I see an opportunity for us to do massive public education.
Yes.
And also a massive struggle for gender equality, massive struggle for economic justice, social justice, and also, you know, for many people, the masses.
And I'm sure
it is not optional. People have to know.
Familiar with the way in which Africa is theorized as being female. I mean,
you know, I was going. You remember I said that for me, gender is more complicated.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you look at disadvantaged populations, they are conceptualized as female. So let's say differently abled people are seen as weak and they are kind of feminized. Poor people are feminized. The global south is feminized, the global north is masculinized.
To be raped,
So
abused,
the way
raided,
yes,
exploited,
raped, plundered,
yes, plundered,
trashed, invisibilized.
Yeah.
I don't know the grammar. So I just think that if we put women first, or if we put women at the center of all human activities, and we value women the same way we value men.
Yes.
It's
Some
going
of
to be
us will actually go so far and say, get rid of this notion of binary oppositions.
Exactly. Also, we have also people who don't fall in either category.
Yes.
And we have to be conscious of that. And as Africans, it breaks my heart that we actually force people to choose one or the other. And we make people dive underground, who don't fit into our preconceived notions of the binary opposites. Because we have this heteronormative framework, and we have decided that we are going to impose it on people whether they like it or not. That's wrong. I don't believe in it. I don't think it's productive. But our religious institutions support this. Our social institutions support it. And, I don't know. It's like that thing of if a tree falls in the forest and you don't see it, has it fallen? So we have people who are, who don't identify as male or female. We have people who have, who are, LGBTQI, and they're living their lives underground, but because they are not upfront about it, we want to say that we are all male, female, having heterosexual sex. Another thing that's happening in Nigeria is that, if we're focusing on Nigeria, maybe other African countries, because we have criminalized people's ability to express their sexuality. There are men who are bisexual, who are carrying on unsafe sex, infecting wives with HIV. This is also, we are not concerned, as long as they are not showing us that they're gay. So we need to get a grip, okay? We need to realize that God created all of us. If I want you to treat me as a human being, I should treat you as a human being regardless of your sexuality. Let God be the judge of all of us. Because a lot of heterosexual people are doing atrocities that we don't even bother to be concerned about.
Pedophilia.
There's pedophilia,
rape,
there's sexual assault,
gender-based violence, all in the name of.
So I think I love my people, but I do think we have a lot of blind spots.
Yes.
That if we open our eyes and our consciousness and we decide to embrace all our people, it would be for our own benefit. So I believe in equality, I believe in equity, I believe in social, economic, and political justice.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's a beautiful way to round up this session. Thank you.
My pleasure.